After all, you, Naomi's wife, are just an outsider. So please renounce the inheritance and leave that high-rise apartment. After my husband's funeral, once I had greeted all the relatives, I was gazing at my husband's portrait. Out of the blue, my mother-in-law blurted that out. I couldn't grasp the meaning of her words, and shaken, I asked her, Mill, what do you mean? That's what I'm saying. Give up on Robert's inheritance. Please, not on the day of the funeral. It's not because he's gone now. It's important. Even so, what then? Planning to hog the inheritance all to yourself? This must be why my husband disliked his mill. I remembered my husband's words. My mom gets blinded when Minnie's involved. Bob always said that like a catchphrase and always kept his distance from his own mother. That's why I only met my mill once, during our marriage introduction. Then, just the other day, my husband collapsed from exhaustion and a heart attack, never to return. You, Kathy's wife, have no blood ties, right? But I, his mother, raised Bob, so I have the right to the inheritance. Isn't that right, Bob? My mill declared, addressing my late husband's portrait. I was stunned by my mill who, even at my son's funeral, talked only about money without a hint of grief. Can we discuss this later, please? Well, I'm family by blood, so I believe it's only right that I get it. As the daughter-in-law, you should renounce any inheritance and vacate the home. I could feel the gaze of relatives around us, noticing our disagreement. I don't want my late husband lying in his coffin to hear such outrageous words from her. Please, let's not do this now. You have no say in this. Just do as I tell you. I truly wanted to shout back at those unreasonable words. But given my role as the main mourner, I bit my lip and held it in. Seeing my silence, my mill probably thought I'd obey. She suddenly cheered up, saying, "All right, take care," and headed over to the other relatives. How can she only think about money when her own son just passed away? Staring at the photo of my smiling husband with mixed emotions, tears welled up, and I couldn't hold them back. My name is Naomi, and I'm 40 years old. I met Daniel, who is 2 years older than me, 10 years ago. Back then, Daniel had just started his own company, and I was hired as his secretary. It was tough at first, but thanks to Daniel's hard work, the company grew and became well known. We got married, and since then, we've been facing life's challenges together. And yet, he left me behind. That day, when I heard Daniel had collapsed at the office, I rushed to the hospital. By the time I got there, he had already passed, his body cold. Why, just last night, we were talking about going on a vacation for the first time in ages. Why did this happen? In my days, the doctor told me, it was a heart attack due to stress. Come to think of it, this morning, my husband mentioned something concerning. I've been feeling some chest pain lately. Are you okay? Maybe you should see a doctor. Well, work has been a bit hectic lately. If only I had insisted on taking him to the hospital then, maybe this wouldn't have happened. No matter how much I regret it, my husband won't come back. Even though I understood it logically, my heart couldn't keep up, and I felt an overwhelming urge to scream. Yet, as the person in charge of the funeral, I pulled myself together and bravely faced the mourners throughout the service. Then, as if to trample over my feelings, my mill brought up the topic of inheritance. I felt nothing but disdain towards her. We didn't invite her to our wedding 10 years ago. My husband's father passed away when he was in college. But with the life insurance and savings he left behind, she should have been set for life. However, due to her reckless spending, she had apparently used up all the money. Yet, when my husband's mill reached her 60th birthday, he invited her for a celebratory dinner. But then, you got promoted to CEO, right? Why give me a meal when you could give me cash? That was the first thing she said after not seeing her son for so long. Do you have any idea how much it cost to raise you? Pay me back every penny I spent on you for the last 40 years. My husband, who had faintly hoped that age might have softened her, cut off all contact with her after those words. From that day on, he never had anything to do with her again. Yet, during the funeral, my mill went around telling my husband's colleagues about her pride and joy son, and after his passing, she boastfully spoke of her hardships in raising him. I wanted to stop her, but couldn't due to the situation, watching on with frustration. In the days following the funeral, I was swamped with various tasks, keeping me incredibly busy. During this, my mill called multiple times, but I consistently ignored her. Once everything was finally settled, I felt a gaping void in my heart. Entering my husband's room, I couldn't help but feel that John was still there. This condo, with traces of him everywhere, now feels too large for just me. John, what should I do now? I asked, speaking to my late husband in heaven, as I began sorting through his belongings. Keeping busy kept me from falling apart, or I felt like I'd just cry nonstop. Days went by, and after what felt like 7 weeks, I slowly began to resume a semblance of normalcy. One evening, coming home from work, there was quite a commotion outside my apartment door. Please take that stuff outside, I don't need it. To my shock, there was my mill loudly instructing movers, and several workers were hauling my belongings out of the house. Mill, what on earth are you doing? It's obvious, isn't it? I'm removing your clutter from here. Don't just take matters into your own hands. Oh, hush. This is all because you refused to leave this place. But this was John's house. It's not yours. Why on earth do you have the house key, Mill? John left the key and his belongings at the office. At the office? You just took it from there. I'm his mother. I just went and collected it. Apparently, she had taken my late husband's belongings from his office without me knowing. I regretted my oversight, having had so much on my plate. Now, hurry up and get these things out. My mill didn't care about my protests and kept trying to have my belongings moved out. Please wait, I'm not leaving. Hearing my outcry, the movers looked uneasy and finally stopped. Don't be stubborn. You're leaving. No way. So, you want all of John's assets for yourself? I won't let you have them. Sign away your claim and get out. My mill was relentless, not listening no matter how much I pleaded. Let's talk this out calmly. The movers seemed confused, and with the commotion at the front door, neighbors started peering out. All right, I'll leave in a week. Can you just wait a bit? Reluctantly saying that. Oh, finally come to your senses. My mill responded with a smirk. You should have said that from the start. Watching her leave in high spirits, I let out a deep sigh. I didn't expect my mill, who made a scene at the funeral home, to stay quiet, but I never imagined she'd resort to such tactics. I should have acted sooner. Robert, I'll do as you told me. Sitting in front of the family altar, I prayed to my husband's portrait and tightly clutched the letter beside it, making a vow. A week later, my triumphant mill arrived, and when I showed her the renouncement and condo ownership papers, she clapped with joy. Oh my, this means I get to live here now. Yes, I've already moved out, so from today it's officially your house, Mom. You should have done this sooner. Where would you like to place Robert's portrait? I don't need that thing. It's in the way, just throw it out. Overwhelmed with grief, I tightly embraced the cherished photo of my husband. Now our ties are cut. Don't contact me, all right. I wouldn't want someone trying to mooch off a rich woman like me, laughs. As she left the condo, my mill said this, shutting the door firmly in my face. Now I can live a life of luxury. From inside the room, I could hear my mill's shouts of joy. It'd be nice if that's the case, I muttered softly with a smirk. I received a call from my mill 3 days later. What's going on? I thought we're strangers now. Weren't you not supposed to contact me? Enough noise. Explain yourself. What about? My son's inheritance is just debt, no life insurance at all. Did you properly renounce your inheritance? Apparently, as soon as my mill moved into the condo, she received a ton of debt notices. I did renounce the inheritance, just as Robert's will stated. Excuse me. He had warned me long ago. If something ever happened to him, he'd only leave behind debt, so I should definitely renounce it. What? Seriously? Actually, I had planned to renounce the inheritance from the start. That's because my husband's company had nearly gone bankrupt once, and at that time, he had racked up a significant amount of debt. Trying to reduce the debt even a little, he pulled together all his savings, even cashing out his life insurance. The company recovered, but a considerable debt remained. That's why I was relieved we were thinking of letting go of the condo. Hold on, I haven't seen any will. Well, it's more of a letter addressed to me, so there's no need for you to see it. What kind of nonsense are you spouting? You're the daughter-in-law, aren't you? A daughter-in-law is still a stranger, not bound by blood. For a moment, she seemed at a loss for words. I could hear confused sounds like coenda from the other end of the line. I couldn't help but stifle a laugh. What about the company? The money? He was the CEO, so he must have had money, right? Company funds aren't something an individual can just freely use. I don't care about that, with no other choice. I patiently explained to my mill about the immense debt we took on when facing bankruptcy, how the company is still in recovery and that there isn't any money. I also clarified that company funds aren't something an individual can just freely use. Well, then I'll just become the CEO in place of Mike. Then I can use the company's money, right? That's not how it works. Why not? I'm continually amazed by my mill's stubbornness. Explaining any further would likely be in vain. Besides, the CEO position has already been entrusted to someone he trusted the most. What? Why would he make that decision without consulting me first? Well, it was you, Mill, who never listened even though I suggested discussing it multiple times. Oh, seems she remembered something, as her fiery momentum suddenly halted. After a few moments of silence. Tell me, is there really no money left? Yes, all we have is debt. But you bought this high-rise condo, right? If you sell it, you'll get some money, won't you? Well, about that. What is it? We used the condo as collateral when borrowing money, so there's a mortgage on it. Okay. In other words, we can't just sell it on our own. Actually, it's about to be foreclosed on soon. Foreclosed? It means we'll have to move out of this high-rise condo. Oh no, I could hear Mill choking up on the other side of the phone. Listen, I have a debt of $80,000. I was planning to cover it with John's inheritance. What should I do now? I just kept borrowing money every time I ran short, and it just piled up. That's quite a situation. You're my son's wife, right? You'll help me, won't you? I don't think so. A daughter-in-law and Mill are essentially strangers after all. It's probably a last-ditch effort, given she's past the point of caring about appearances. Besides, John's letter clearly states that I don't have to be involved with you anymore. Please, don't say that. I've decided to keep my promise to John. Mill says things like I've already terminated my previous apartment lease and have nowhere to go and I can't afford any more debts. Of course, I was aware of all that. But I couldn't muster sympathy for my Mill, who at my husband's funeral demanded I renounce my inheritance and even said she didn't need his portrait. I'll give the condo back to you, so please do something. I'll apologize for what I said at the funeral. Please, I'm begging you. So my Mill, who kept nagging on and on. I guess this means our relationship is over. Please don't contact me anymore, okay? Haha. With that, I hung up and cut off all communication with her. I heard from relatives at the 3rd anniversary of my husband's passing that Mill is struggling with her own debts and those left by my husband. Apparently, shortly after that, the condo was foreclosed and she was left homeless. She tried borrowing money from all the relatives, but after seeing her behavior at the funeral, no one was willing to help. She made her bed and now she has to lie in it. Currently, I'm working as the vice president at the company my husband founded. Gradually, we've been recovering our business, regaining the momentum we once had. I'll keep working hard to protect the company he built